Yes.
Hey everyone. Just wait for a couple of people to join here. Give them some time. I'll just explore this ice stadium model. So for those of you watching, what we'll be doing today is we'll be going through the InsiteVR Navisworks workflow so that you can do review and coordination meetings from your Navisworks model in really under 2 minutes. So this is a Navisworks model that some of you might be familiar with. It's the default ice stadium. And so what we'll be doing is we'll be showing you the kind of data that gets exported to InsiteVR, but then more importantly, once you're in your meeting and you're reviewing with people, how do you capture issues, how do you review issues, and how do you make sure those issues get resolved appropriately so that we're not just using VR as a toy, but as an actual productivity tool. Let's see. Joined here by some virtual friends over there. So we'll give people maybe like a minute or two to join us. And towards the end, we'll be taking questions. So if any of you have any questions, leave them in the comments, tweet them to us, add them to our Facebook post, anywhere you want. Just send us questions. Our team will be checking and then passing along any questions that you have. So please ask questions. We want to answer them, and we want this to be as informative as possible. If you're thinking about buying a virtual reality headset, if you're thinking about how VR applies to your project review workflows, those are the questions we hope to answer today, and really for all levels of users. So if you're a company that is just starting to dabble in virtual reality, if you're a company who just wants to catch more errors and really improve the project delivery, then this is for you, right? Maybe you haven't even started thinking about VR because you don't see the connection between issues that lead to change orders and more RFIs and rework. We're here to tell you that VR can do a lot to mitigate that. It's not just a visualization tool. It's not just to impress potential clients and existing clients. That is a side effect. Clients will be impressed, but primarily you'll get a lot of your ROI from just using it during your traditional issue detection workflows. All right, so I think we can get started here. For those of you watching who just joined, I'll recap again what we're doing. So this is a sample model from Navisworks. It's the ice stadium. You might have seen it before. And I'm wearing virtual reality goggles. So this is the HTC Vive, and I'm actually in the model right now. And the way I got into this model is using the InsiteVR for Navisworks plugin. So what that is a plugin that you can install from www.insitevr.com. And what it will do is it will install the InsiteVR meeting application, but it will also install plugins for Navisworks and Revit so that when you are working on a Navisworks plugin, all it takes is one click on the top of the Navisworks ribbon to get into an environment like this. Now, right now, I'm in here solo. I'm reviewing it alone. Shortly, I'll be joined by a colleague of mine. But that's the first thing I want to talk about is how do we get a model from Navisworks and what we are used to seeing on a screen into virtual reality. So with the Navisworks plugin, again, I install it, I click one button, and then the model will export, and that's it. I can put my headset on from there. And then what will happen in the background is it'll sync with our servers so that you can start a meeting shortly thereafter. But let's talk about what makes its way into the virtual reality meeting. So when I export from Navisworks, obviously all the 3D geometry gets exported, as you see here, and I'm not just standing in a static environment, so I can walk, so I'll walk backwards. It's a little disorienting, but I want to show you guys, or I can walk forwards, or actually I can teleport. So you can see I've got this little helper here. So wherever I point it, I'll be teleporting. So let's teleport over there, closer to the seats. Okay, so I can teleport around the model. So obviously I've got 3D geometry in here. We'll export anything that isn't hidden in your Navisworks project. So if you hide certain elements, those won't come through. Anything that's not hidden will get exported to InsiteVR. Additionally, you see some colors here. So all your geometry colors will get exported as well because we know that is essential for review meetings, right? We know that all the MEP is color-coded structural. All that is important to help you drive these conversations forward. So all of that gets exported with the Navisworks plugin. Now, the last thing that I want to talk about in terms of data that makes its way from Navisworks into InsiteVR right now is layers. So I'm going to open up a menu. So I've got a menu here, and I'm actually going to make it easier for you guys to see. Give me 1 second so I can put it on my hand. Okay, so I've got this menu here. Hopefully you all can see it. And so what this menu is the InsiteVR menu for navigating different views, different things that we've set up. And I want to show you in particular the layers menu. So here you can see I've got some layers that I've exported from Navisworks. There you go. I'll try to make it as clear as possible. So that's a list of layers that correspond to Navisworks layers. If you don't have any Navisworks layers, we will just take the different 3D models that are in the top level and make those your layers. So, if you have a DWG from one person, an RBT file in there, you can just turn those on and off when you're in here. But if you do have layer information, it'll make its way into here. And so then you can toggle it on and off. So let's see the effect of doing that. Let me go ahead and turn off the seating, which I believe is on the second page. There we go. So I've turned off the seats using the layers, and I'm going to go ahead and turn them back on. So obviously, you guys could see how that's helpful as we're reviewing. Maybe certain things are getting in the way, or we want to see what's behind the walls, or if the MEP weren't here, what would that look like? So we give you access to all of that. All you have to do is export from the plugin so that we make sure we get that information. In the past, some of you might have been used to exporting in FBX. That was a cumbersome workflow, it was long, and it also didn't give you all this beautiful data. As we integrate more closely with Navisworks, we want to bring in more information so that your meetings are productive and focused on your BIM, not just focused on the visuals. Okay, so we've covered the process from getting to InsiteVR from Navisworks. So what do you do now that you're in here, right? It's not just about looking at this wonderful stadium, being in awe, and that's it. No, we want to have actual issue discussions and resolutions. So I'll go through a couple of things. The first one is you can set up some views in InsiteVR. So you can see I've set up some views here in my menu, and at any time I can jump to one of these views. So I'm already in the arena, but let's say we wanted to go outside. I'm going to click on the courtyard, and I've got this pop-up that shows up in front of me. All right, so now I'm standing in a courtyard. Let me actually move over here so you guys can see what I'm seeing. Okay, so I'm standing out here, and all I did was click that view. Let's see, what if I wanted to go into one of the suites? Okay, so now we're up on a suite. Let me see. I don't know if you guys can see from this angle. Well, I'm in one of the suites. Let me see. I'm going to try to get you a view. So that's the suite that I was just in. Now I'm flying. But that suite up there above me, that's where I was teleported to. And again, all that just by clicking on one of these views. So these views are important for driving your discussion along, right? You've got certain things you want to jump to and discuss. You can set those up, and then during your meeting, jump to them. Okay, the second thing I want to show you. This is an extremely powerful tool. So right now, we're in a 3D model. We are looking at the Navisworks Ice Stadium sample project. But sometimes we need to refer to real-world data or maybe some conceptual renderings while we're in here. And so what InsiteVR allows you to do is bring in 360 renderings or photographs and place them in the context of the model. So you can see here, I've got a 360 rendering. So you can see I took a random one off the internet. I wanted to show you what it's like to have an actual photograph, because what a lot of our customers are doing is actually going on site with cameras like the Ricoh Theta or the Samsung 360, capturing images and then bringing them into the model so that you can refer to them and see, okay, what are site conditions like, and what does the model say we need to do, and you can take care of any issues that way. You can also use it to track progress. There are a number of ways you can do it. We just want to show you what's possible. So let me show you here. Okay, so hopefully you guys can all see this blue icon here, right here above me, my hand. So that represents a 360 hotspot. So right now I'm standing in a 3D model rendering of the ice stadium. Now, if I walk backwards here and I do this carefully, let me drop back to the ground. Um, okay, so now this pop-up comes up. Ooh, so now I'm in a 360 image. So I'm no longer in a rendering. This is a 360 photograph of Wembley Stadium. Again, I just took something off of the internet to show you that example. But the cool thing here is I went from this conceptual 3D model of a stadium into an image of the working site conditions, right? So maybe here I'd be able to see, okay, this is what it looks like now. When we get to this part of the building phase, we're going to need to address this, right? Because on site, there are certain things that we're not seeing in our current Navisworks model. And so this becomes a very powerful tool for you to reference working site conditions by going out, capturing 360 images, and embedding them in there, or having someone constantly update these 360 images as the site progresses and you jumping into here to review them. Okay, now the pinnacle of this whole review thing is making sure we can track our issues, right? We're not just going to go in here, identify a bunch of issues and leave it up to our brains to remember everything, because hopefully you're going to find a lot of things that you need to fix, right? And so what we can do to address that is use the annotations. So annotations are these text comments. Let me see if I can find a good one. Okay, so we'll go over here. Okay, so right here, you can see there's some others. Wait, you can see there's some annotations, right? I was in here with some folks the other day, and they said change the sweater color to brown on this person, and then move the stadium 3 feet over. They left it over there. The question is, how did they leave that while they were in VR? You're in here, with 9 other colleagues, and you have things you need to address. We don't expect you to take your headset on and off and type things on your keyboard or have somebody next to you taking notes. You can do that all within the headset using speech to text annotations. So let's go somewhere where maybe we can leave a comment. Okay, so like right here, right? Let's say we find an issue with this ledge. How do we mark that up and keep track of it so that when we go back to the owners of that model or that assembly, they can update it? So I've got my menu. I'm going to hit create. And so here I've got a couple of presets just as a shortcut. Sometimes we understand you don't want to be saying the same thing over and over again, but the real magic is in this speech to text tab. So right here we've got a custom tab, and you can see that the microphone little sensor is responding to my voice. So that means it's working, which is good. And now I'm going to say something out loud, and the software is going to transcribe that so that I can keep track of that issue. So let's say investigate the ledge height. I just say that out loud. The software transcribes it for me. And let's see what it says. Perfect. So it says investigate the ledge height. And you saw how easy that was. That took me maybe 5 seconds. All I had to do was press record, say something out loud, and tag it. So now I'm going to go ahead and place the annotation and place it wherever I want. Let's go somewhere you guys can see it, right there. All right, boom. So now I have left this beautiful annotation right here, investigate the ledge height, and I can keep track of it. So now when I go back to my annotations menu, it appears first on the list there, investigate ledge height. And so you can go through and review these issues, right? So maybe you did a run through of the model and found certain issues you want to discuss. What we're also working on is then exporting clash information from Navis so that you can see it here. And now I can click on an issue. Okay, so now I've flown to a previous one that I've made, which I'm going to fly over. So hopefully you guys can see it. Maybe not. It's, let me see. I get a good angle here. Okay, it's a little tough to see from the angle I'm at. but let's try another one. Oh yeah, here. So what I did there was I clicked on one of the annotations and I went to that location. So we can use this as a guide for our review meetings. So basically, we acknowledge meetings need agendas. You're not just going to go in here and free willy, explore the entire model. And so that's where you can use annotations to your advantage, and also as a way to keep track of things. So in an earlier meeting, we might have said we need to increase the gap here, which you can see right there. And so maybe next time we jump into this model, we go there and we verify, did we in fact close that gap, or, is that something we still need to resolve? And so the annotations all get saved here in the menu with a screenshot, but we know it's important to be able to share these things. Not everyone is going to go into VR. Not everyone is going to open the InsiteVR software. Maybe not everyone can make it to the meeting. The dispersal of this information is really, really, really important to us. And so you can see on the top here, there's a button right here that says PDF. So that PDF button, when I click it, will actually generate a PDF of all of these annotations. And you can do this from your desktop as well. You don't need to be in VR. But the idea is all of this 3D information will get consolidated into a PDF that looks a little bit like this. I mean, obviously not as 3D, but it has all the data there, right? It says what the comment is, it has a screenshot of what we annotated, and it has who left the comment so that you can email this around and make the necessary updates to the Revit model, or the AutoCAD model, whatever it is that you've consolidated in Navisworks, and whoever needs to address it, you can send that stuff out. So you go into VR, you have a 30-minute review meeting in here with 5 people. You find, let's say, 100 issues, or you review 100 clashes and you narrow it down to just 50 that actually need resolving. Then you just send that PDF over to some people. And we've seen similar PDFs from people's workflows, except those are being generated manually. You're screen sharing on Zoom or GoToMeeting, Navis model, and when you come across something that needs fixing, you take a screenshot, you make a little red scribble markup or something of what needs fixing, you fill in the PDF with what needs addressing, and then you email it out, right? Those are your meeting minutes. Well, now you can have meeting minutes just auto-generated for you, right? As long as you're keeping track of them in VR, we'll make sure you have something that you can walk away with to feel like your meeting was productive and has, actual action items. That I think covers the main tools. We have other utilities here to help further the discussion. For instance, a sketch tool, so I can pick up a pen here and mark things up. Draw a circle. Well, I guess I should face you guys. I'll just draw a happy face for now. Oh, sorry. It's a little tough to draw for the camera here. Okay. Right there. Okay, so happy face, obviously not something that you'd be drawing to your meeting, but just want to show you. And you can see you've got a couple of things to make it more useful. You've got different colors, so you can do little schematic drawings if you need to, different stroke sizes. It's all there. So I'm going to stop sketching. We've also got a measurement tool. So that one's particularly powerful. So let's say right here, these beams, if we're uncertain of what the beam size is right here, we can very easily find that out using the measurement tool. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start Measuring. I'll click on one end, and then I'll click on the other. Beautiful. Can you guys see that? So that's 3 feet 4 inches. So when would you ever find yourself using this? Well, if you need to validate a clearance, or maybe you need to check an opening or a gap like we just did, right? Maybe there's something that's not ADA compliant about that gap. We can verify it then and there. Someone says, hey, that feels a little off. Instead of just kind of leaving it up to your gut, you bring out the measurement tool, you make that measurement, voila, you verify then and there. Or someone says, hey, this doesn't feel like a 10-foot ceiling. Are you sure that's what you're showing me? You validate it. Yes, 10 feet, that's what it feels like. If we need to change it, let's do that now before we're in construction and it's way too late. And then finally, we've got a screenshot tool. So, okay, so you guys can see on my hand here, I've got a camera that shows me what I'm looking at. And so what this is helpful for is sometimes you have a very obvious clash, or maybe you've sketched something out and you want to keep track of it. you can do that with a camera, right? You don't need to always use the speech to text functionality. So I'll capture a picture here. It saves a screenshot, and then that screenshot goes in with the rest of my comments here, and it goes towards the end. So you can see there, that last one is a screenshot. Oh, that's not the right one. Yeah, so the screenshots appear here, and let me see if I can show you. So if I point to it, here, let's point to one that I can go to. So that's the one I just took that I've selected there. You can see there's a little download button. So these obviously all get synced to the project on the InsiteVR cloud so that when you download your PDF, it has a nice list of not just your comments, but also your screenshots so that you can keep track of those. But of course, you can download it just to your computer locally if maybe you just need to send it in an email or you want to mark it up further. The file is there for you to do whatever you need to do with. Okay, so at this point, we are ready to start a meeting. So far, I've been doing a review alone. That is not how InsiteVR is meant to be used. There is way more power in using it with people together. You guys are doing review and coordination meetings with other people, not just alone at your desk, because the fact of the matter is getting a building up is a multidisciplinary thing, right? It involves many parties, many different types of experts. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to start a meeting. Okay, now I've started a meeting, and so shortly my colleague Thomas will be joining. And one thing we want to highlight here, I'm on an Oculus Go. I've got a pretty hefty setup here. I've got some trackers in the corners looking at me. I've got these fancy controllers. But what you don't see because of these beautiful green screen effects is that I need a lot of space for this, right? I need a pretty big play area. And the fact of the matter is, you're not going to have one of these for every person in the office, at least not yet. They're not compact enough. But there are other devices like the Oculus Go, which are completely standalone. They cost $200, and they're very easy to just throw in your bag, maybe take on site, or just leave at your desk. And that's one thing that everyone can have at their desk. And we're not saying it's equivalent to this, right? This can do a lot more. I've got full range hands. I've got full 6 degree of freedom tracking, but it's a step to make VR more accessible. So I can be in my Vive, but maybe I have 4 other people who don't have the resources, don't have the space to set up a full Vive setup. And so they just join from Oculus Go's. Maybe one of them just joins from a desktop. We support cross-platform meetings because we know that these discussions are going to happen in a variety of environments and a variety of devices. One story is, and this is a true story, I was on an airplane once and I was about to take off, but I had my Oculus Go. I put it on and I was able to join a meeting with about 11 other people and review a model from an airplane. And people maybe thought I was watching a movie or playing games on my Go. But I was attending a review meeting in virtual reality, which is really cool. So it doesn't matter where you are with these portable devices, it makes a discussion way more accessible and allows you to just at least see the same thing, right? Be on the same page. They might not be able to do everything that you can, but they can at least confirm some of the things that you're discussing or trying to resolve. The other thing I want to say about the Oculus Go is, sure, it might not be as powerful, but it paves the way, for thinking about the future of virtual reality. If your project teams, if your firm is thinking about what the future of VR looks like, it's going to be very much like the Oculus Go. Yes, there will always be these high-end devices like the Vive and the Oculus Rift, but these mobile devices is really where the mass adoption is going. If you look at devices like the HoloLens or Magic Leap, while these are augmented reality, they are wireless devices. And guess what? They're running Android, behind the scenes. Well, not the HoloLens, but Magic Leap is running some version of Android, and they're running on, mobile-like processors. So you won't be able to take your NVIDIA, 1080 that you love at your office on the go with you. You won't be able to pack that in your pocket. But that's okay. When you're at your office, you can have, everything you need, and other folks, maybe, the Oculus Go is all they need to participate in your discussion. So let's see. So right now, I'm the only one here, but I'll show you a couple of the tools while I wait for my colleague Thomas to join. So I've got the ability to do some muting. Let's see if I can show it this way. Okay. So I've got a gather button. When I press the gather button, it'll bring everybody to me. So if I had, 10 people in here and I press gather, we'll all just, go to my location. I can broadcast. So when I press broadcast, it will force everybody to follow me. And then also I can, when other folks join me, I'll show you what I can do. One second. Got it. Okay. Give me 1 second. So there we go. And my colleague Russell has joined. So you can see him there. And so he should show up shortly as an avatar in here. Hey, Russell. Okay, so Russell is speaking right now, and you can see, his microphone is jumping up and down so that I know he's talking. He's the green one. And so let's go to him. So I can go to him right here. So when I press go to, what it does is takes me to his location. So let's see, let me position you so you can see Russell. Hey, Russell, stay behind me so that the audience can see you. Okay, so that's Russell. So he's joined from his desk. He's joined me in my meeting. And so it's quite simple to join a meeting. So I'm in VR, so I couldn't do it, but if before the meeting you set a calendar invite, InsiteVR makes it so that you can just paste a link into there. You don't have to send them a file. You don't have to ask them to go through the setup process ahead of time. We want to make it as seamless as a GoToMeeting or a Zoom meeting, right? We don't want you to feel like VR is invading your meeting. So we just add a link to the invite, or maybe Slack somebody that link. They click it and they jump into my meeting. It's that easy. And the cool thing is you can set up recurring meetings. So, if you drop it into a calendar invite, the next week the same people will join you. And if Russell is just a guest in my meeting, if a meeting is not live, he'll see a screen that says, "Hey, sorry, you don't have permission to view this project unless a meeting is in session." And then I kick off my meeting, and he gets access to the model. Okay, so as I'm in here with Russell, we'd go through the model, and he can also make, everything I can, speech to text annotations, the measurements. He can take screenshots. And so we'd be able to talk to each other and see each other. And, he's drawing messages for us there. But the idea is, instead of doing that, 1 hour painful screen share of trying to understand issues that are in 3D on a 2D screen, you just jump in here, and it's very likely that you can do everything you were going to do in that 1 hour in 15 to 30 minutes. And the best thing, which we've heard from our customers, is you also walk away with actual resolutions, right? You're not just reviewing the issues and trying to explain a specific view. You go in here and you get to the meat of the issues, right? Okay, why is this clash happening? What can we do? And everyone's looking at it in the 3D model, in the context of the environment. And so they can chime in a lot better than they could trying to interpret your 3D model on a screen, or rendering, or plans. Okay, so one thing I haven't shown you. So right now we've been looking at the model at full scale, right? I have been to scale here looking at this stadium with Russell, but I'm going to go ahead and take you to the let me erase the sketches here. I'm going to take you to what we call our dollhouse mode, which is, the scaled version of the model in front of you that you can, look at like a dollhouse. So let's go up there. Okay, and okay. So you can see the model here, and Russell is behind me. Oh, let's see. Let me see if I can get Russell to appear. Okay, so there's usually an environment behind me that looks like we're in a room and a table, but right now the green screen might be freaking out, but that's okay. You can still see the model. So here's a version of the model scaled down, and so I can peer in and look at it closer. Russell is also looking at it next to me, and he's just at his desk in his VR headset. He could have joined also from his desktop if he didn't have one. And one of the coolest features is we have the ability to broadcast your view in the headset to people on the desktop, so that if they don't know the 3D controls, or you're afraid that it's going to take them a while to understand these controllers or even arrow keys and a mouse, you just turn on broadcast and they'll see exactly what you see in the headset and follow along with you and just confirm what you're finding. Okay, so the model. So I'm looking at it in front of us. I can scale it up, or I can make it smaller. So let's make it slightly smaller model. Get Russell back in the image here. Okay, there he is. So we're looking at the model here, and Russell keeps disappearing. Let me try to get the model in the view. Let's try to see if we can get both of us. Hey, Russell, can you come over here? I think we might have to place our camera a little lower next time. Okay, so what I'm going to show you now is I'm going to turn some layers on and off. So right now I'm looking at the whole model, but let's say I only want to look at a couple of components. So first let me hide everything. And then let's see, maybe we can do like a cool phasing animation here. So everything's coming together as I turn certain layers on. Let's keep the roof off. And we can evaluate it from up here, which is really cool. So, here I've got like a shell of the building. I can lean in and look at certain things, or I can make it a little bigger so that my colleagues and I can review it together. And we're just looking at a skeleton of the model right now, and then we kind of go along and continue adding more and more layers. So what we usually see dollhouse mode be effective for in the context of meetings is to give people a big overview of the model before before you jump into it. So especially on a site like this one, it's a pretty big stadium, you would jump into the dollhouse mode. You'd have the 10 people around the model looking at it, and you kind of give everyone a lay of the land, right? Okay, this is where we'll be starting. We're going to be doing an analysis of this. Then we're going to jump into the stadium and we'll be discussing X, Y, and Z. And then we'll end over here, at the restaurant area, and we have to look at some of the plumbing and gas pipes going through there. Because what we found is that in VR, an agenda is even more critical, right, than a traditional meeting. In a VR meeting, or in a regular meeting, you can kind of get people's attention back onto what you're doing quite easily. In VR, especially if it's their first time jumping into here, it's going to take a while for that novelty to wear off, and so people are going to want to explore the model. And sometimes it's a really good thing, right? You see engagement with the model that you don't see with traditional processes. But what I was getting at was it's very easy for people to get lost or just to wander off. And we've built some tools like the gather and the broadcast to help you keep things on track. But, making sure everyone understands what needs to be discussed before the meeting is really, really important. Um, and up here, you can kind of do that, right? You start up here, you give everyone the overview, and then you jump in and discuss the things that you need to discuss. All right, so let's see if we can scale it. Oh, so there's Russell right there. So he's a virtual avatar. So he would see me the way I see him right now, as a floating headset with hand controllers. And you saw briefly when his menu was open, he had his menu. And so he's drawing a wonderful sketch right now of some trees, which is something that is really powerful. And when you're in the dollhouse model, you can maybe draw what an extension would look like, right, or what trees and landscaping would look like. And then when we jump back down into the model, we're going to see those trees at full scale. So let me actually see if I can do that for you guys. Perfect. Okay, so you guys see, oh, I'll go that way. I'm trying to find the best angle for you guys. Let's see. Oh, it's capturing that. Got it. Okay. So there are the trees that Russell was drawing. and you can see some are still going up. He's drawing them. Of course, you probably wouldn't be we'd be drawing trees, but that's an easy example. And so he's up in the dollhouse model, up there somewhere, and he is just creating objects while I'm down here. And so you can have these interesting conversations where people are in different scales, but still able to communicate from different perspectives. Let's go back up and join him. There's Russell. So again, this is the other perspective, right? This is the perspective from the top. We discuss things up here, and then we go down there and we get down to the nitty gritty. So that's a proper overview of InsiteVR meetings. So you can see here, what a meeting would look like. I'm in VR. My colleagues would be in VR. We're reviewing our Navis model, and getting into here is really easy. Again, like we discussed in the beginning, it's just the press of a button, and then to get your colleagues into here, like Russell was in here, it's just sending a link, right? Once your project is hosted on InsiteVR, you can send that link around and have the comfort that they're going to see the same thing you're seeing. They're not going to have some out-of-date model that you then have to troubleshoot. You just send them a link, they click it, and you get down to business. So, making VR as unintrusive as possible is really important as we kind of begin to adopt it and begin to derive value from it, because sometimes, all the clunkiness of the headsets can get in the way of these productive discussions. And so we want to do whatever we can from the software side to relieve some of that pain so that you can get in and start adopting VR as a productivity tool for your review and coordination meetings. So if any of you have questions, you can drop them in the comments. I think maybe it's over here, maybe in the bottom. You can tweet them at us. You can send us a Facebook message. We'll be hanging out in the stream for a little while longer. This will be recorded, and we'll want to do more. If you have examples of times that you've done coordination meetings in VR and then success stories, also reach out. We're always eager to learn more about lessons learned. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. And hopefully in the future, we can also share some more stories of some of the successes that our customers have had. Maybe we can have them in here live. This is an experimental medium for us, not virtual reality, but this mixed reality setup. The whole green screen setup, bringing you into our models so that you get a different perspective than just the traditional just first person view, and hopefully you find it engaging and clear, so you can see my menu, you can see what it's like when you're in VR and get a proper understanding for what happens when you're in here. So you can see that I pressed gather because I didn't know where Russell was, and in the click of a button, I just teleported him to my location. Hey Russell, high five. Let's see if he can see me. Boom. There you go. So your first coordination or review meeting is right around the corner. It's really, really easy. It just takes one click, and sharing with people is really, really simple. So reach out to us. If you haven't tried our Navisworks plugin, you can try it out on the website. It is live now. We're making a lot of improvements to it, and hopefully you saw the full suite of tools here that you have access to so that you can have productive meetings, not just meetings to visualize. All right, so let's see. Do we have any questions? Hopefully some folks in the other room might come by to let me know if you guys have questions. I can check my messages here. I don't think any messages. Okay, so no questions right now. This is our first time doing this, so we totally understand. But hopefully on the next one, we'll have some more specific questions as more people try out the Navisworks plugin, the Revit plugin, and try their first meeting, because it's really what it takes to get this started at your firm is just diving into it. Let's see. Are there questions? Yeah, questions. Cool. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. Hopefully this was helpful. This was instructive. We'll be doing more of these. Again, send us questions for any future ones that we do. But for now, thanks so much, and see you guys next time.